And we're going to be talking about thoughts today and how we relate to them. It's very interesting, and I think we can really get some benefit out of this. One thing to remember is the relationship between our mental state, our mental fitness, and our physical fitness. A lot of people separate it. Oh yeah, that's physical, that's mental. But one of the things that we really need to take into consideration is we're a whole person. And that means that our physical state can really influence our emotional and mental state, and our mental and emotional state can really influence our physical state. And this is something, this connection that really needs to be made. That means, therefore, that we need to take care of ourselves physically if we want to have a good mental fitness, if we want to have a good emotional regulation. Then taking care of ourselves physically is really important. And that means good nutrition, good sleep, exercise, food intake. This is really, really important. And so always I say to any of my clients, if they're starting to feel a little bit emotionally upset, if there's something in their mental awareness that's beginning to disturb them, one of the first points of checking is at the doctors to get a full blood scan, to understand if there's any infections, if there's anything going on inside. When we have physical medical ailments, it can really affect our emotional state, it can affect our mental state, when we start to feel it in our body. So it's really important that, I can't even stress it more, that we have regular medical checkups, especially if we're beginning to feel some sort of anxiety coming on, depression coming on. If it's something that's chronic and it's been going on for a long time, you've been to the doctor and it's all checked out, very good. If not, if something acute, something's just started, it's always a good idea not to go to the doctor from the point of view of saying, I'm depressed, I want some antidepressants, but going and explaining those physical, descriptive situation that you're in, that you're having some sort of stomach pains or some sort of sensations in your body and so on. And this is something that I'm not just mentioning for the sake of it. It's really relevant to today's lesson. And today's lesson is about how we relate to language. Our thoughts are all about language. And sometimes we can have descriptive language, and sometimes we can have evaluative language. And that's the same with our thoughts. Sometimes our thoughts are descriptive thoughts, and sometimes our thoughts are evaluative thoughts. And a lot of the time we don't know how to distinguish that. And when we don't know how to distinguish that, it can get us sometimes into a little bit of trouble. Okay, well, as usual, we're going to start off with our breathing. So, ready, using our tummies, breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth, as if we're breathing in the scent of a beautiful flower, and breathing out in order to blow out candle. Breathing in, holding, and breathing out. Breathing out very slowly at the count of 5, letting go as we do. Breathing in, holding that, and breathing out. Halfway there. Breathing in, holding, and breathing out. Just let go. Final time for this lesson. Breathing in, holding, really deep breath, and out. Just letting go. That's it. Just let that oxygen marinate right around your brain and body. Okay, so thoughts are getting churned out all the time by our brain. Thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts per day. Sometimes we don't even realize they're there. And thoughts can come in the form of words, in the form of that inner voice. They can come in the form of memories and pictures and all sorts of images. And it's, all these things together we call language. Language in pictures, language as images, language in thoughts, languages and sounds, everything that's your brain is churning out for you. And sometimes these thoughts are not so comfortable. Sometimes they're quite intrusive. And sometimes they keep going round and round and round again. And we've got to learn how to manage that. A lot of the time what happens is people try to, get rid of those thoughts. I don't want to hear them, try to la 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 kind of thing, maybe put music on, I don't want to hear my thoughts. And that might work for a very short period of time. But at the end of the day, they're all going to start generating again. Or sometimes we try to numb them out. Give me some antidepressants, give me some sleeping pills, give me some of this, maybe alcohol, smoking cigarettes. Just get rid of those thoughts. Unfortunately, and here's the bad news, unfortunately, if we've got working brains, we're going to have thoughts being churned out all the time. Sometimes these thoughts will be pleasant, sometimes they'll be neutral, sometimes they will be very uncomfortable, and sometimes painful. What we are learning is how to manage that. We are learning how to surf that. Because what happens with thoughts is that they come into our head, they hang around for a certain amount of time, and then they will move out again. And if we can learn to surf that wave of thought, if we can learn to be willing to have that thought until it leaves us, we're going to be in a much better situation. And when we're in a better situation, meaning that we'll be able to cope with that, we'll be able to learn how to do that, the quality of our life is going to go up, because we're not going to be using all our time and energy and focus fighting or trying to run away from those thoughts. But it's important to learn about thoughts and what they are. Some of our thoughts are really descriptive, and some of our thoughts are evaluative, and sometimes we don't actually know how to tell the difference. So, what's the difference between description and evaluation? Look in front of you for an object. I've got this table, for instance, in front of me. Whatever you can find in front of you. And let's describe it. So, I'm going to describe this table is about 4 feet long, this table. It's made of wood. It's got a brown wood color. It's quite solid, and it's made with a kind of a fancy design at the edges. It's kind of a stepped design towards the end. I can see on the surface of this table, the surface of this table has that natural wooden pattern to it. I can see that the table has been varnished, has little nicks in it here and there. Okay? So that's me describing the table. Now, if I wanted to be evaluative about the table, I could say, well, the table is medium size. It looks to me a little bit kind of not very nice table. I did like it at the beginning, but now not so much. In fact, sometimes the table really annoys me. Other things about this table is that, it's useful sometimes, I put stuff on it, and I find it, sometimes it's a bit of a useful table. All right. So these are evaluative thoughts about the table. Okay. So we see the difference. We have sometimes descriptive thoughts, and descriptive thoughts are thoughts that we can describe something using our 5 senses. So we can describe something using our eyes, or our ears, our nose, a sense of smell, sense of taste, and sense of touch. These are descriptive thoughts. Okay? Evaluative thoughts are thoughts that are subjective to me, and they're a bit of a story, right? They're a bit of my own evaluation. They're nothing to do with the intrinsic qualities of the object that I am evaluating, okay? Descriptive thoughts are intrinsic to the actual object, and my evaluations are not. These are my subjective evaluations of the object. All right, now I'm going to show you a different one, for instance. Let's up the ranks on this. So I have a big object and a small object, okay? So if you're in the UK, you'll recognize this object as a 2p coin, and this object is a 20p coin, okay? That's what they're called. These are evaluative names. But if I was to describe this coin descriptively, so I would say it's a round piece of metal, it's a copper color, it has on it all sorts of engravings, including the Queen's head engraving image. On the other side, it's got all sorts of fancy different designs on it. And it's got some letters around the edge, including the Queen's name, Elizabeth. Okay, if I take this coin, so this is a coin that's got 6 edges to it, I think. It's a silver color, and it's got an engraving on the back of crown, and on the front, or on this other side rather, it's got an engraving again of the Queen's head, and the Queen's head is looking from, she's looking in left to right, if you like. Okay, so now I have 2 coins. This coin is bigger than this coin. So if I was to ask a small child, which coin is bigger? Right, they would say this coin is bigger. So if I was to say to a small child, what coin do you want? The bigger coin or the smaller coin? So he would say, I want the bigger coin. There you go. Because generally speaking, we want things that are bigger than small things. Don't know why. Now comes an adult, and he looks at these 2 pieces of metal, and he says, okay, this piece of metal might be bigger than this piece of metal, descriptive, but we're going to make up a story. We're going to make up an evaluation story, and that is that this small silver one is going to be worth much more than this bigger copper one. In fact, it's going to be 10 times more value than this one. Now that's just made up. That's just, an agreed idea. It's not intrinsic to the coins. The intrinsic value of the coins is this one is actually bigger than this one. The evaluative idea that we put is this one is worth more than this one. So if you're a small child, you might tend to go for this one. But if you're an adult and understand the evaluative value, you're going to possibly have this one. All right? And especially if I multiplied it by maybe 10 million times, you'd say, you know what, I'll take the smaller ones, 10 million, rather than the bigger ones, right? Okay, similar with this set. So we have a big 50p coin and a smaller coin, which is worth double this. Again, this is bigger, this is smaller, but this is only worth double this. Why? Because we made that up, right? Okay, so it's important to understand that our thoughts are similar. Some of our thoughts are descriptive, and some of our thoughts are evaluative. And some of our thoughts, when we have that evaluation and comparison, this is bigger than this is valued more than this. Just remember, when we're comparing, are we comparing intrinsic values, or are we comparing evaluative values, which are kind of made up, aren't they? It's just a general kind of agreement that we make up together. All right. So sometimes we have thoughts like that. I'm that person over there, they're better than me. Is that descriptive or is that evaluative? Now, the thing with evaluative thoughts are sometimes they kind of disguise themselves a little bit as descriptive. So we've got to be very careful. Better than me, when we ask, is better an intrinsic value of that person, or is it just me comparing myself? Is it just me evaluating that? All right. Now, we've got to remember that descriptive thoughts are with our five senses, and they're intrinsic to the person or the object or the thought that we're talking about. I have a thought that I have a kind of a butterfly sensation in my body. I have a thought that I have a pain in my arm. Okay. My evaluative thought might be, oh, I've got anxiety. That's not a good thing. Oh, I've got a pain in my shoulder. That must mean that it's come because I didn't do this, or I had an argument. We start to evaluate it. So that's what I meant at the beginning when we go to the doctor. Sometimes it's important to be descriptive first of all, and he might then ask what your evaluation is. But if we start off with evaluations, we're giving a very subjective view rather than an objective description of what's going on. And that's really, really important. Okay, so one of the things to practice then is just sitting and observing our thoughts and just understanding, is this thought coming in descriptive, or is this an evaluation that I'm making? Distinguishing these descriptive thoughts from our evaluative thoughts is not an easy process. If it was easy, then we would all be doing it. The idea is that this takes practice. Is this thought descriptive, intrinsic to the actual thought, or is it evaluative? Am I making evaluation? And judgment, of course, is an evaluation.